Is it started yet?
Yeah.
Is the camera rolling? This is They Came From Within. Terror beyond the power of priests or science to exercise.
Yeah, you're getting a little chubby.
They Came From Within was David Cronenberg's first movie. It's a Canadian made and financed flick. Some of you might know this better as, well, I was going to say as Shivers. I was thinking of Slither, which was a bit of a was inspired a bit from this movie. But it's also known as Shivers. If you look for it on DVD, it's called Shivers. I don't think it's ever been released under this title, at least on DVD. But it was called They Came From Within originally. About mid-70s Canadian. David Cronenberg's kind of well known in the horror field. Basically known for doing kind of body horror, as they call it, because there always seems to be some kind of mutation or something physically happening with the people in his movies. He did The Brood. He did The Dead Zone. He did the remake of The Fly with Gina Davis and Jeff Goldblum in the mid-80s there. I'm sorry, so he did quite a few. He did Naked Lunch, not a horror movie. That's another flick he did. He did Scanners. He actually did an episode of Friday the 13th, the series. He got maybe a little bit more away from the horror genre. He did Viggo Mortensen a few years back. I blank at the name, sorry guys. But he actually did a non-horror movie. Man, I wish I can't remember that name of that movie, so I won't worry about it. But he basically did a lot of horror comes 70s and 80s. Other interesting people to point out is this produced by Ivan Reitman, who was actually in America but moved to Canada, started making movies. His first flick was Cannibal Girls, which is now on DVD. He helped produce a couple films. This one, people were so outraged by this. Rabid was another Cronenberg flick, and after those movies came out, people wanted Ivan Reitman out of the country. He wasn't Canadian. He was making these horrible horror flicks. But Ivan Reitman, amusingly enough, is best known for comedy. He was in Stripes. He was one of the Ghostbusters and co-wrote that movie. Caddyshack's another movie is his. So he hit the 80s. He's back in America. And he's making comedies, and he's had Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and all these other people. But it was during the 70s, and while he's time in Canada making horror films, that kind of helped give him a start. A couple more names. I mentioned Lynn Lowry real quick. She was in the original. It's a George Romero flick, The Crazies. She was in the original Crazies. She did do a cameo in the remake of The Crazies. She's also in I Drink Your Blood. She was a very skinny but young, attractive woman. Did some B-movie horror. Barbara Still, kind of a big name. She's been making movies since probably the 1950s. Though I think it was an American actress, she actually made her living mostly in European. She did a lot of Italian cheapies, and she did a lot of British movies. By the 70s, she was, getting older, middle-aged and such, but so she wasn't getting leading roles anymore, but she was still popping up in movies. She did this. She was in a Women in Prisons movie, Corman production, Big Birdcage, and that. Actually, that might have been Big Birdcage. It was one of those Filipino Women in Prisons movies in the early 70s. But like I said, I mentioned Slither earlier. That was James Gunn. Is that who did that? The guy from Troma. But this movie has a bunch of slugs and stuff that kind of come out and they end up attacking people. They get in their bodies and they make them basically go into... they arouse them quite heavily sexually. They go on rampages, attacking and killing and affecting other people. But if you remember the Slither poster, Slither of course has slugs in that movie, and the Slither poster had a woman in a bathtub surrounded by the little Slither slugs. So they kind of took that image from this, and also the idea of the slugs. So Slither was inspired by this movie. It's not a remake.
If you watch Slither, there's actually nipple in that movie in the bathtub scene. It's hard to see, but I saw it.
I'd have to watch again. One thing I like about Slither is, Michael Rooker's in it, plus Elizabeth Banks is in it. I like Elizabeth Banks a lot, though I didn't think she looked that great in that movie, but she's in that movie, so. And before we move on, We're going to have a flashback to episodes of the past, because I wanted to show this initially and I forgot to. If I could pick this up without wrinkling everything. When I did Nightmare on Elm Street 3, my previous one, we were talking about rocking like Dawkins.
With the great singing.
I rock like Dawkins because I have the Dream Warriors. Dawkins Dream Warriors theme from A Nightmare on Elm Street 3. It's here on vinyl, folks, in pristine condition. There's Dawkins, there's Freddy in the background, if you can see him. Can you? I don't know. Focus. There we go. Excellent. Now can you see it? There's only 2 songs. Dream Warriors, the one everyone knows. That's on the side 1. And you cut for back for the attacker part. Who cares? They have Paris' Birthday. I don't care. But it's got the Dream Warriors. I just wanted to point out, I do have this on vinyl. Matches the artwork here. Actually, after I do all my one sheets, I do have a bunch of soundtracks on vinyl. I might go through those. Won't be near as long a series of videos as these, but I do have some of this stuff on vinyl. In fact, here's some of my vinyl collection. That's all soundtracks, original vinyl. Let's get this piece of plastic out of here. Now I've disturbed the order of things. Anyways, I like this poster. 70s, like the basic two-tone image and stuff. Kind of a neat 70s poster. I also want to point out the tagline said Beyond the Power of Priests or Science to Exercise. This is because this came out in 75, about 2 years after The Exorcist, which was a huge movie and still very popular. There was a lot of demonic stuff that came in the aftermath of Exorcist, so they were trying to point out this movie is even scarier. It's more intense than even The Exorcist could give you. It's not, folks. So I do kind of like the movie, just because it's, I don't know, cheap 70s film, I guess, but I enjoy it, and there it is. We have Tales That Witness Madness. An Orgy of the Damned. It happens beyond madness where your mind won't believe what your eyes see. Tales That Witness Madness, starring Kim Novak, Joan Collins. Donald Pleasance is in here, folks. Donald Pleasance, best known as Dr. Loomis in the Halloween, the original Halloween movie and ongoing sequels.
Don't forget James Bond.
Yes, he's also, I'm going to forget his character's name, but he wasn't James Bond.
At the cat.
Blofeld. He played the evil Dr. Blofeld, who was the inspiration for Dr. Evil in the Austin Powers movie. The look of Dr. Evil was the exact same look as Donald Pleasance as Blofeld in the James Bond movies. But it was the only time Blofeld, it was the only time Donald Pleasance played Blofeld as well. That character popped up in several James Bond movies, but it was played by a different actor with a completely different look every time, so has nothing to do whatsoever to do with this flick. I got this for pretty cheap. This is under $10. I think I got this for $3 if I remember correctly. And it's pretty much damn near mint shape here. I see a slight wrinkling up here. Cheap black and white. For the price, I wasn't greatly enthralled with the poster, but it's kind of funny, the head on the platter and stuff. And I got it for so cheap. Couldn't resist. This came out in 1973. This is an anthology flick, which means there's 4 or 5 stories, basically short films, all in the same movie. Have seen it, don't remember it greatly, so I couldn't give you more information. I'd have to kind of watch it again, or at least look up a little bit of information to refresh my memory. I do remember the movie, it was okay at best. I do like anthology films, but this one didn't do a lot for me.
You're under 3 if you're going to talk about that one a lot.
Oh, now what am I going to do? Oh, I want to talk about that one a lot. And that one might require talking.
Let's wrap it up and do another one.
You know what? Yeah, we'll do a little preview here. Anyways, our next series, I might want to talk about this a little bit. But it's probably, I don't think I have enough time to quite go into all the Amityville horror stuff. I might not even just spend a couple minutes. I might even talk about that much. But this will be up for our next video. We'll be talking a little bit about the Amityville horrors, his original one. Then we're going to follow that up with the Return of the Living Dead, big fave among horror fans, especially of the 80s. But this is a preview of what's going to come up in the next episode. Kind of a good bit to talk about, so I think I'll save it for next time. Thanks again for watching these videos, and I'll see you around in the next episode.